Hi everyone. Thanks for joining me again. I am joining you before I go to the library because there's a book that I want to talk about and I also want to return it. I don't want to keep it another week. So I thought I would talk about that before I go. And a couple other things that I'm reading. I have some notes here. And then I'll also maybe talk about what I'm getting from the library. I think there's like one or two things I'm really excited about. I'm Renee, by the way, for any of you that are fairly new here. Thanks for joining me. So I talked about getting this book as a hold from the library, and I've got a tab here in an area that I suppose I want to talk about or read, but I often will look at tabs and I will not know what they are there for. These tabs, by the way, are not the best tabs, unfortunately, but they're the cutest tabs. They're these things, probably for children, but this one stuck, which I'm surprised. So Danielle Dutton, I read her book from several years ago called Sprawl, which I love for its unusualness. She is not a person that is interested in plot. She is interested in character and voice, and she created this character in Sprawl, the first person voice, the protagonist, this woman in the suburbs that's so unique. It's crazy. It's like that ongoing sentence book, Ducks Newburyport. It's just in the way that it's written out, but it is a, I'm assuming a completely different voice. So, and she's also the partner of, a partner in Dorothy, a publishing project. I think that's what it's called. Let me look here. Co-founder and editor of the award-winning feminist press, Dorothy, a publishing project. So she now lives with the other co-founder of the project, her husband, Martin Reichert, in Missouri. So the first part of this book, Prairie, is some essays or some stories. It says, Prairie is a cycle of surreal stories set in the quickly disappearing prairie land of the American Midwest. So yeah, interesting. I think some references to her own life in these stories, because they're talking about her son, and I know that they have a son. So yeah, interesting. The second part, Dresses, is a list of 66 dresses in literature, and she just gives you the quotes from the pieces of literature or poetry, and it was really fun to try to figure out where these pieces come from. Number 28. In our simple cabin-like house, I put on a dress that is deeply, deeply patterned with the night sky. And then at the end of this chapter, you look and see where number 28 came from, which I won't tell you, but it was cool. I really liked that. That might have been one of my favorite parts of this book. Art is a really interesting section about how literature and poetry can interact and does interact with art. And by that I mean I remembered, I took notes. Yeah. The art section, essays on ekphrastic writing, which is, I think it means writing about or with or from art. So it could be essays, writing poems, and she has done some of that work. She's been commissioned to provide writing on pieces of art. So let's see what this tab is for, because it's from that section. Perhaps I write fiction in response to visual art, not only to foreground a practice of looking, but also because my encounters with visual art frequently make the world strange. And it's when the world is strange, or when I'm awake to its strangeness, that I'm most compelled to write. It seems to me that ekphrastic writing, at least the kind I'm interested in, takes place as a dialectic between these two impulses, between art's ability to make strange what has grown familiar, and translation's desire to make recognizable the experience of one artwork inside the space of another. And then the last section is other, which is, as she puts it, includes pieces of irregular forms, stories as essays, essays as stories that defy category and are hilarious and heartbreaking by turns. So yeah, this was really enjoyable. I'm having a really hard time describing it because it's just a unique experience, as all of Danielle Dutton's works seem to be, and why I enjoy them. In the back, in acknowledgments, she says, "The prairie is one of the least conserved habitats on the planet. Missouri, where I live, was once covered in many millions of acres of prairie. No more than 50,000 scattered acres remain. Half of my proceeds from the sale of this book will go to the Missouri Prairie Foundation." Highly recommend, if you're into this kind of stuff, then this should be on your list. So I think maybe the last time I filmed, I was reading the third of the Loose trilogy by Alfred Hayes. My favorite being In Love. I'm sorry, that's not true. My favorite being My Face for the World to See. Then I read In Love, which was okay for me. I think because I just love the first one so much. And then the last one, which is called like The Last of Me, I got out of the library, and Nathan from Nathan's Nook was talking about this in a recent video. And I agreed with this old Hollywood voice that this book in particular has, although I think they all share that mood. But in this book, the character, whose name I can't remember because he's actually named in this one, is moving from LA to New York City to do some writing because that's where he's from, or where he spent the most of his life. And I do feel like he's got this hard-boiled kind of voice. It's almost like if Anthony Bourdain were to write some kind of fiction, this is the voice that he would write it in. It's like unsentimental, it's fast-paced and slangy in that time frame. But I actually didn't finish it. I think if I owned it, I probably would just keep on going, or I would put it aside and just have it sitting here and then pick it up again. But I didn't. I returned it to the library. So if I see it in another library sale, which is how I picked it up in the first place a year ago, last summer, the first book, which I hope I do. I hope I do see it in a library sale. Anyway, what I'm reading. So interestingly enough, I am reading this new release. That's not really the interesting part. It's called Committed on Meaning and Madwomen, a memoir by Suzanne Scanlon, and I'm loving it. Look at this painting on the front. This is Suzanne's experience in the 90s when she was a student at Barnard, grieving the loss of her mother, which is such a sad story. Her mother passed away when she was fairly young. Feeling untethered and swimming through inarticulable pain, she made a suicide attempt that landed her in the New York State Psychiatric Institute. And this is that story, but Suzanne is a writer, so she brings in other components to this experience she's having. And because this experience is very extreme, but I think she's talking about, like, this is the 90s and what would happen now, and she was obviously grieving, and she brings in similarities and differences to Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar and Sylvia Plath's life. The interesting part is I'm also reading a book that is doing the same thing, that's talking, at least just talking about Sylvia Plath and The Bell Jar in a very interesting way. And that is the arc that I have by Alyssa Gabbard, which is an author I really like. I read her earlier book, which I'll list down below because I can't remember what it was. But this is a collection of essays, and it's called Any Person is the Only Self. I have it as an electronic version, and I wasn't going to read it yet, but it comes out in June. Oh, June 11th. Contagiously curious essays on reading, art, and the life of the mind. Oh yeah, her earlier book was called The Unreality of Memory, which I really liked. So these essays are all over the place, and for me, I'm not a big essay reader. I do wish I had this physical book, because then I would just read it slowly here and there. But I like the way she writes, because some of the essays flow into each other. They have this connecting thread. So it just feels like I'm reading chapter 1, 2, and 3 of the subject that she's talking about. I'm getting the two confused though. Like, I know I'm reading about the bell jar in here, and I'm also reading it here, except this is more visceral because she actually was in a psychiatric hospital or institute for a while. So I think I'm going to put this aside, even though I'm enjoying it. I may end up dipping into it again, but because I'm getting the two mixed up, I really should just finish this and then go back to this. I was just eager to get to it. So let me see what's coming from the library, because I'm excited about a couple of these things. In the meantime, while I'm logging in, I want to tell you that I've been thinking about the next Trollope book in the Palliser series, which I think is called Phineas Finn. And I've been wanting to like have it, buy it used, and just have it bedside to read at night. I love to do that. It's probably a pretty thick one. I forgot to look at how many pages it was. I have a little trip coming up, and I don't think I would take it with me. I think I'll just take something much lighter with me on that trip. It's a bit of a road trip. But I do just want to have it ready and start it, because I just love, I mean, I've had some spotty reading experiences. I have books in my bag, and I keep trying things, and some of the books that I mentioned in the library haul just didn't work out, and I just know that's going to be there, and I can just always have it waiting for me and read a couple pages. So, okay, a couple holds. The Easy Life by Marguerite Duras. I've never read Marguerite Duras. It was just on my radar. It's her piece of fiction, again, called The Easy Life. And then Jane Smiley's new book called Lucky. Now, I may in my lifetime have read a Jane Smiley, and I just don't remember, but this looked good. So I thought I would get the new one. I didn't think I'd get it so fast, and here it is waiting for me. And then I got The Illiterate by Agota Christoph. Let me see if I can get to it. Narrated in a series of stark, brief vignettes, The Illiterate is Agata Christoph's memoir of her childhood, her escape from Hungary in 1956 with her husband and small child, her early years working in factories in Switzerland, and the writing of her first novel, The Notebook. Huh. All right. We'll see. I think newly published. It doesn't look like, translator is Nina Bogan, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. So that's I must have read about it somewhere, and here it is waiting for me. Self-Portrait in Green by Marie Nadaya. Where did I hear about this? This is the special 10th anniversary hardcover edition of Marie Nadaya's genre-defying classic. Restores photographs that appeared in the original. That's all I know about that. Please chime in if you know more. Lastly, this I just heard about on Caroline's channel, which I discovered. I think it's Caroline's channel. I will double check in a second. but I'll just tell you about the book. What we talk about when we talk about love by Raymond Carver. She talked about the set of short stories so enticingly. I needed to know more about it immediately. So, I mean, I don't know if that's going to, if Raymond Carver writing is going to be for me, but I thought I'd pick it up. Oh, Catherine at the Constant Reader. There we go. Check it out. I'll link her channel. Please let me know about whether you're reading this really cool Danielle Dutton. I've seen this book around on Bookstagram, so I know a couple people are getting into it. Please join in the conversation below. I look forward to continuing the conversation in the comments. I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks for joining.